in the middle of the piece, you know. Play the same
I don't know, but you need to pray for your wife. That's all I got to say. You need to pray for him. He's gonna get lost.
Who are we praying for over here?
Ivy.
I don't even see Ivy. Oh, yeah?
She ain't got no health problems, but she's got some problems.
Oh, yeah? Well, I do too, I'm sure. I do too, I'm sure. Everybody doing okay? With all the problems you got, you're doing okay.
Robert still pray for you.
Who?
My son, Robert.
Yeah? Yeah?
His doctor's supposed to release him today, but he won't release him until tomorrow. He said he needs to talk to him. So I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
He got the tube and the pump out today, but he said he needs to talk to him tomorrow. So
Well,
we'll just pray.
let's remember to pray for that. Okay. Remind us of that here in a little bit. I have to be reminded of things. I write them down so I can. Hey, I spent about 10 minutes the other day looking for my glasses and I was wearing them. You ever done that?
Why, no.
You done that? Al did that.
Either that or have them on my forehead.
I feel instantly better. I was wearing mine. See, it doesn't make much difference anymore whether I wear my glasses or not. My vision's about the same with them or without them. Isn't that sad? And so I was looking for them. I was like, do what? Looking for your phone?
I wear contacts for them.
Yeah.
That's like me stepping in my shower with my hearing aids on.
What's the truth, Judge?
I'm what now? Oh, if it's good as my glasses? Yeah. It doesn't matter much. All right. I'll get it fixed one of these days. All right, John chapter 2. John chapter 2. And verse 13 through 22. And let's talk about Jesus cleansing the temple. John chapter 2, let me begin reading in verse 13. Now, the Passover of the Jews was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. And he found in the temple those who sold oxen and sheep and doves, and the money changers doing business. When he had made a whip of cords, he drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money and overturned the tables. And he said to those who sold doves, take these things away. Do not make my Father's house a house of merchandise. Then his disciples remembered that it was written, zeal for your house has eaten me up. So Jesus answered and said to him, what sign do you, so the Jews answered and said to him, what sign do you show us since you do these things? Jesus answered and said to them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Then the Jews said, it's taken 46 years to build this temple, and you'll raise it up in 3 days? But he was speaking of the temple of his body. Therefore, when he had risen from the dead, his disciples remembered that he said this to them, and they believed the scripture, the word which Jesus had said. You know, much of the Gospel of John takes place around the Passover festivals in Jerusalem. And you'll see that, and we'll see that as we go through, that we'll see a lot of these things do take place around the festivals of Passover and all around Jerusalem. John wanted to make sure that the readers would never lose sight of who Jesus is and the reason why he came in flesh. So he keeps pointing that out over and over and over and over through the book, who Jesus is and why he came in flesh. Jesus is not simply the main character in a great story. All of us probably like a great story. You like to go to a movie or a show or something and see a great story and you'll have a main character. Well, Jesus is more than the main character of a great story, and he's more than simply a teacher of wisdom. Jesus came to the earth because of the Passover. In other words, in order to fulfill once and for all the promise of God that he would be the spotless lamb to take away the sin of the world. That's the reason John the Baptist said in John 1:36, "Behold the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world." Well, the Passover that's taking place, and as we see this throughout the book, and Jesus around Jerusalem, he's picturing that this is the once and for all sacrifice, and this is why Jesus came in the flesh. He's deity, but he's also flesh. And so the act of cleansing the temple is actually an act that supports the same theme and message of turning the water to wine. Last week we talked about turning the water to wine, and this action of Christ supports that same theme and message of the water to wine. It demonstrates the transformation ministry of Jesus. So think about it like this. The cleansing of the temple shows the rotten nature of religion. The rotten nature of religion. Jesus was not opposed to the temple. He was not opposed to the idea of the temple. In fact, Jesus quoted Isaiah 56:7, which says, "Even them will I bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer." I'll make them joyful. The word joyful is key. In my house of prayer is key. We can see the same thing mentioned also in Matthew 21:13 and in Mark 11 in verse 17. But however, rather than a house of prayer, the Pharisees had turned the faith of God into just empty religious ritual. Empty religious ritual. They were there to worship in the temple. They had the physical temple. It had taken 46 years to build. Remember, in the wilderness, they had the tabernacle in the wilderness, and it was mobile as they traveled through the wilderness. Now they had the temple. And Jesus is going to talk about the temple, his body. And we talk about the temple like this building we have. This is not a temple. This is just a building. It's just a building that the First Baptist Church owns as a group. Here's the temple. Here's the temple. So Jesus wasn't against the temple worship, not at all. That's what they had, and that's what they were doing. But the empty kind of religious ritual that they had, it really kind of focused religion sort of horizontally, person to person, rather than vertically between them and God. They weren't really worshiping between them and God. They focused person to person. Now we're to focus our worship on God. God is the object of our worship, not people. So Jesus left no doubt about the fact that he hated empty religion, and he demonstrated by driving out these money changers. Now, let's focus for just a minute on the anger of Jesus. This is one of the things that we dealt with in our Sunday school class is the anger of Jesus. This passage makes it clear that Jesus is angry. So the question is, how can Jesus be angry? How can Jesus be angry? If God is love, how can Jesus, who is God, get angry? And would it be sinful to be angry? Would it be sinful to be angry? Well, you know, the thing is, anger can be sinful, and anger can lead to sinful actions. So yeah, anger can be sinful, but real love, genuine love, is compatible with anger. Genuine love is compatible with anger. And actually, when anger is rightly placed, it proves the authenticity of love. Let me give you a couple of examples. One of the things that we do here at church every February, we do a lot of different mission things, but every February we collect some items. There's a blue bucket back there, and there's one out in the other building. We collect some items that we take to the Springs. Now, the Springs used to be called Day Spring Villa. Those of us who have been around a while, we remember Day Spring Villa, but they changed it to the Springs. Well, that's okay. That's fine. But the Springs is there to take care of women who are in need. They may be battered women. They may be it may be some kind of a sexual thing or a sex trafficking kind of thing. Various needs. These women need a shelter. They need a place where they can go, where they can be safe, and where they can recover, have some time to kind of get themselves together and kind of, get a plan of action together and move on with their lives. Well, I'm sure somewhere along the way, somebody noticed what was happening to these women. They got upset and mad about it, and they got mad enough to do something about it. And so now we have this great place that helps these ladies out. We bring in food every month that we send down to Mission on Main. Well, somebody got upset that people were hungry and started bringing in food. And so there can be an anger that motivates us to action. And that's what we see about Jesus. He was angry about what was going on, and it motivated him to action. Many great ministries have began and received their start because somebody got mad enough to go to work. Somebody said, somebody needs to do something about this. Somewhere along the way, I'm sure that the people who started John 3:16 mission in Tulsa decided some people needed a shelter and a place to sleep off the street. And so they started a ministry. And so love can motivate us through anger that we're mad enough to get something done about it. Happens sometimes. I could talk about how great my love is for my wife. And I can talk about how much I love my wife. We're getting ready to celebrate our 39th wedding anniversary. All right, 39th wedding anniversary coming up. So I can talk about how much I love my wife, but if I just stood by while somebody hurt her, then my love would be doubted, right? I can't just stand by and let somebody hurt her. I got to do what I can, or my love will be doubted, all right? And nowadays, if something happens, I was always taught when I was young to run away from a fight, but I can't run anymore, so now I just got to stand there and fight. I may get whipped, but I can't run away from it anymore, so we'll just have to deal with it. Well, so anger, Jesus' anger is evident because of what they have done to his Father's house. So he doesn't have sinful anger. I'm sure that probably all of us, I'm probably sure every one of us in here tonight could probably say at some point in time we had sinful anger. At some point in time we probably got mad about something we shouldn't have got mad about, and we probably did something we shouldn't have done because we were mad. But in this case, Jesus saw something that made him mad and it moved him to action. So I'm sure I've wasted a lot of anger over the time when it could have been placed on something where it needed to be placed. Well, what were they doing? What were they doing? Well, they had to exchange money. So there wasn't anything wrong with that part. They had to exchange money because they could not give foreign money in the temple, so they had to exchange it. It'd be like if I've gone on mission trips. When you get in the country, sometimes you have to take some American money and change it into the money for that country, so you can buy what you need to buy. And so that's what they had to do. But this had become quite the business. This had become quite the business, and they had to get animals. Sometimes they would travel in for sacrifices. They couldn't bring a lot of animals with them, so sometimes they'd have to buy some animals when they were there. There's nothing wrong with that part. But the money changers and merchants, they kind of had the people over a barrel, and they were charging them exorbitant prices. We only charged you $2.50 for your potato tonight. What if we wanted to charge you an exorbitant price for your potato tonight? Well, they were charging as much as a day's wages to change a 2 shekel piece. So whatever a day's wages was to change a 2 shekel piece, well, what if you needed to change several shekels? You know, you could give up a week or two's pay just to change your money. And so they were doing that kind of thing, and the same kind of thing with the animals. They did this so often. Historians say that they had put in their coffers the equivalent in today's dollars of about $20 million. You know, so they had accumulated some wealth. They had accumulated some wealth. And furthermore, the high priest Annas was behind all of it, and he was actually selling franchises for money change in an animal booth. So you could pay off the high priest Annas and get a prime spot, you know, to do your money changing or sell your animals and then make money. In fact, they called it the Bazaars of Annas, because that's how you had to work through him to get these spots. So Jesus just found widespread corruption, and therefore he said, hey, get out of here. Get out of here. And so this was the right place for anger. So don't ever say, well, there Jesus got mad, so he sinned. No, he didn't sin at all. He didn't sin at all. As Elvis said, he took care of business, right? Okay? He took care of business. It needed to be done, and he ran them out. So that was rightly placed anger. So as Christians, that doesn't mean that we need to go around seething in anger about everything, you know, with anger just coming out of the pores of our body. But when we see something that's wrong like this, and it gets under our skin, and we replace it in the right way, then you can get some ministry started, like the Springs, or like John 3:16 Mission, or Mission on Main, or many other things that can be done. Here's the thing: Jesus wants every person to experience joy in their relationship with God. He wants every person to experience joy in their relationship with God. What was taking place caused joy to be the missing note in worship. Because, no one wants to be cheated, right? No one wants to be cheated. I don't mind to give, and I don't mind to give money. I don't mind to help people with money and needs and things. I don't mind that at all, and I don't mind for our church to do it. I think those are. I think that's wonderful. I don't think, and I've never helped anyone what I didn't end up getting more back than what I end up giving out. So I don't mind that at all. But I don't want to be cheated. I won't be cheated, and we help people all the time around here at church with various needs. But every once in a while you're going to get cheated, but every time I get cheated, I think, well, the thing is, shame on them. But what irritates me is what I gave them, I could have given to somebody who was actually in need. You know, so that's where it gets under my skin. And so these people, it was ruining the joy of worship because they're being cheated before they ever got to worship. You know, they came in, they changed some money, and they wanted to give the money, but they had to pay so much to change the money that what they were given didn't really make much difference. You know, or they had to pay so much for the animals. So so that was the missing note, was joy. But being known as and called God's chosen people also gave these Pharisees, it gave them a great sense of human pride, because, you know, we're the chosen ones. We're the chosen ones. And it gave them this great sense of human pride, and they often used their status to keep others out. They used their status to keep others out, and to keep them from enjoying a relationship with God. We find that throughout the Old Testament. We find it throughout the Gospels, that they were the in club, and everybody else, just didn't quite measure up to them, and you couldn't quite get in, and they kept people out like an exclusive club. I've always wanted to be able to be a member and play golf at Augusta National Golf Course down in Augusta, Georgia, but I've come to find out, it's probably not going to happen. I'm probably not going to be, because they select their membership. When they select you to be a member, they just send you a bill and say, you're in. Well, I don't think any such bill is going to be coming to my house saying I'm in. Furthermore, if it came, I don't think I could pay it and get in. So there you go. I've come to accept that. But they can gather up and wear their green coats, and look like somebody because they're in the club. And that's kind of what these guys did, They strutted around, they prayed on the street corners, and they made sure they stood in the synagogue and prayed that everybody could see them and hear them. And it's kind of off-putting to other people and kept people out. And so the takeaway for us is that simply calling oneself a Christian does not necessarily make oneself a Christian. Being a Christian means having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. That's the only way we can be a Christian, is a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. But something that we might consider as Christians, and those who have a personal relationship with Christ, is could our actions be used to refuse others a relationship with Christ, like the Jews in the temple did? Could we be off-putting to other people? Could we become sort of a religious club of our own and be kind of prideful and actually kind of rebuff others and keep others out? We don't want to do that. We want to bring others in. We want others in. We want them in the family of God. We want them in that relationship with God. But we had quite a discussion in Sunday school about different kinds of ways that we could keep others out. And sometimes by intention, and sometimes, not intentionally, but just the way we are. We might think we're just super welcoming, but we might not be welcoming at all. So it's interesting how we manage our testimony and manage our Christianity to the point where we are inviting others and bringing them into the family of God rather than pushing them away. All right, so Jesus wants everyone to experience joy in their relationship with Christ, and joy was missing in this, definitely. Let me give you this final thought, we'll be finished. The cleansing of the temple is also a revelation of the tremendous cost of salvation or redemption. Look at the final part, verse 18. So the Jews answered and said to him, what sign do you show us since you do these things? Jesus answered and said, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Now, they didn't understand that. The Jew says, it's taken 46 years to build this temple, and you'll raise it up in 3 days? But he was speaking of the temple of his body. So when Jesus talked about destroying the temple and raising it up again in 3 days, they didn't understand that he was speaking of his death and resurrection. It says later on, when he raised from the dead, the disciples said, aha, that's what Jesus meant. We understand what Jesus meant now. He was speaking of the death and resurrection, but they were thinking about the time and the cost of the building. That building took 46 years to build. 46 years, an enormous cost. You can look it up and see what it costs, but enormous cost to build, and 46 years in time. And so Jesus said, well, you destroyed it, I'll raise it up in 3 days. So they were thinking about the physical building, but he was talking about his life. So when you think about the 46 years and the tremendous cost to build that temple, well, he's comparing the cost of redemption is extravagant. His life, his shed blood. So what is the value of that? What is the value of that? So the high cost of redemption. So the seemingly radical actions of overturning the tables and driving out the money changers with a whip just pictures for us the high cost that Jesus would later pay on the cross. He would pay the price for redemption. And he paid it even for his enemies. He didn't pay it just for those who were lovely and beautiful and wonderful. He loved us. He loved us while we were still in sin. While we were still sinners. He laid down his life for his enemies as well. So the Gospel of John is a clear account of the strength of the love of God. And we find God's love is inexhaustible. It's inexhaustible. And so the action of Jesus in this passage just continues the message of the miracle of the wine. And Jesus wants every person to have that joyful personal relationship with God. All right, we'll stop right there. And next week, I think we'll be over in chapter 3, which is one of the most famous chapters in all the Bible. Okay, let's take time tonight and have our prayer list tonight. And so we want to remember tonight to pray. Some of you have heard, probably most of you have heard, that Donna Cohen passed away this morning after a long illness. Donna passed away, and so I want to remember John, her husband, in prayer. And her funeral service will be March the 1st. March the 1st at 11 o'clock here at the church. So March the 1st at 11 o'clock here at the church. She's Brian's sister. Yeah, she's Brian's sister. She was Jack and Fern's middle child. Russell's the oldest. And her and Russell are exactly 1 year apart to the day. They share a birthday 1 year apart. And then Brian's about a year and a half or so younger than her. So remember to pray for them. Wanda Jefferson is in the hospital. So pray for Wanda. They're trying to. She has some type of heart condition, but they're not sure exactly what the root of it is, and so they're working on that. Lambert Gearling, he's in Evergreen Nursing Center, so pray for him.
Robert in there.
Do what now?
I'm sorry, Robert.
Robert, now.
He went back to the doctor today. They took the pump and the bag off of him, but he was supposed to have an answer tonight about his lung. But the doctor texted him this evening and told him he needs to talk to him tomorrow. He's got to go in tomorrow and talk to the doctor.
Which hospital is he in?
Well, he's out. But
Oh,
he's
he's out of the hospital. Okay.
So
But
he
he's-
needs to go in and talk to him tomorrow.
Well, if you can, let us know what you find
Oh, I
out.
will. Absolutely. Everybody. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Who else? Marilyn. You need to pray for Eric. What is his last name? Ethan Williams. Ethan Williams. Yeah, Pam's nephew. They had a house fire. He has a wife and a 9-year-old son. They're all okay, but they pretty much lost most of what they had. It's somewhere in Collinsville area, Collinsville Rural Fire Department, so it's somewhere in the country. I don't know their address, but Collinsville Rural was the fire department that went out there.
Was someone's name George?
Gavin.
Oh, okay.
Jefferson, George Jefferson? Yeah. Yeah, Gavin lives with them, their grandson. Gavin had George up the hospital today. Who else?
My friend Christy Turner, she has a cyst in her brain.
Your friend Christy Turner?
Yes.
Barry? Okay, what's your praise? Well, that's a good deal. That's a good deal, Barry. We're glad to hear that. Sinus surgery. No. Yes, sir, Richard. Okay. 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 Which, it's your brother? Yeah, okay. Richard Molnix wanted prayer for his brother. Don, did you have one? Well, I just called on you. I thought I saw a hand over there. Oh, Linda had a hand up. Okay, Linda. Well, I called on Don. A compression fracture in your back.
And they're getting ready to start giving me shots in my back. So you pray for me, I appreciate it.
We'll do that. Shots in the back. Okay. Margie.
Vernon and I went out to see Don and Karen Ritchie yesterday. We took him at dinner, and he's on oxygen all the time. Just doesn't get out of the house.
Okay. Don and Karen Ritchie, pray for them that they went out to see Don and Karen, and Don was on oxygen all the time. Doesn't get out of the house much.
I don't think hardly leaves his chair.
Trouble breathing.
He's not able to.
Okay.
Well, she's okay.
Yeah, she didn't have any trouble getting around, I don't think, much. But they don't get out of the house much, either one of them. Who else? Anyone else?
Pray for all that Owasso school out that's going on about that little girl.
Yeah, Owasso, City of Owasso and Owasso schools.
They had Channel 6 News there today and all kinds of stuff.
What happened at the Owasso school?
Well, they had they haven't announced really what all happened, but they had a student that died, and it's after some kind of a fight, and police really haven't released any information yet. But so it's hard to say, but they've got something going on there. It's not good, so pray for them. Who else? Anybody else? All right, we're going to pray and